The Cold War was a 46-year-long period in which the USSR and the USA were tense with each other. Throughout this time, many Americans and Soviets feared that their homes would be taken by the bombs. Schools created drills in preparation for nuclear annihilation. People constructed bomb shelters for their families. It truly was a terrible cold time. But what started this? And what was it like in the beginning? World War II ended shortly after the bombing of Nagasaki and Hiroshima, in which the US became the first and only, so far, country to use nuclear weapons in combat. The USSR was impressed by this weapon, but at the same time a little mad toward the US. The Soviet Union wasn't treated as well as the other nations in the Allies, and the US and the other nations did not like its communist format. The US was inclined to stop the spread of communism, and Stalin, leader of the USSR at the time, did not take too kindly to this. This sparked distrust and tension within the countries. Essentially, the Cold War was a rivalry between the US and USSR about their economics, technology, and government format. In 1949, it was discovered that the Soviet Union had developed their own nuclear weapons as well, making them the second country to get them. This pushed each nation to further their own weapons, making them more powerful each time, and sending fear throughout the world in the process. During the Cold War, wars like the Korean War broke out, and the US and USSR each joined up with a different side. When the Korean War started in 1950, the US allied with the rebelling people, and the Soviet Union allied with the government of Korea. This furthered rivalries between the US and USSR, because they were on different sides, and ended up in the splitting of the Korean Peninsula. One of the last things that started in the beginning of the Cold War was the space race. In 1955, the Soviet Union became the first nation to put a man into space. This was one of the biggest competitions that the US and USSR were locked head to head in. This was one of the defining points of the Cold War, as it really showed who was more technologically advanced. The Cold War was an interesting period of time. It wasn't really a war, as there was no fighting. It was more like a rivalry. Even so, these times were terrifying for almost all, and they all started as a simple argument between the Allies and the Soviet Union.